Welcome back to part 2 of the TruthStream adventure with David and Shane. Welcome back, guys. So good to have you. And we are going to pick up a little bit from the FTX scandal, and then we're going to take this in probably some cool new direction. So please, what is the latest going on with the FTX scandal? We have heard that the clown with the brown hair, he's not been arrested quite yet, and he's off going to these events and speaking at things. And if in fact it's we'll see if it's really him or not. But yeah, what's the latest in the FTX scandal? David, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, from what I can gather and what I see is they're basically circling the wagons, as it were, and they're surrounding this, they're surrounding Sam Bankman-Fried, and they're trying to give him an out. And the out is, oh, well, he just didn't know. It was way out of his hands. Oh, it was way over his head. He didn't have the competency to address it. It became way too big, way too fast. But come on, you do not lose $8 billion and have no accounting for it. And then they know for a fact that he actually dipped in to depositors' funds and loaned them over to Alameda. I mean, if anything is a class fraud, you can see it right there. Just ask any lawyer. Go out there and talk to any lawyer who does your real estate deals or anything that you're doing, and just say, hey, what's your trust account all about? Well, do you think they're going to touch that trust account? Because that's not really their money. Yes, they're holding it in trust. Yes, they're managing the money, but they're not utilizing it to go out and buy their Ferrari or pay for their little condo downtown, right? They're not doing that. Why? Because they would lose their license that fast and more than likely face jail time because it is theft. So let's call a spade a spade. The guy literally went in there knowingly and stole as much of all of these depositors' funds as he could, sends it over to the parent company, Alameda. Now, they had thought that they would be able to invest it, make a heap of dough, $8 billion to invest, that they could make a couple billion off that 8 billion, then throw the money back, right? And nobody would be the wiser. But the house of cards fell from underneath them. And as a result, they're standing there naked, right? Everyone can see what's happened. So now you've got all the big media players and all the political people that backed them. What are they doing? They're circling the wagons and they're trying to cover this guy's ass. Basically is how I see it. Pardon the, I shouldn't say it like that.
But in his defense, though, it's not cheap to cater those orgies, and nootropics are very expensive.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if it is incompetence, well, hey, what about criminal negligence? If it is incompetence, there's still a criminal element to it. There's criminal negligence. When you're a CEO, you sign on. And as a director of any corporation, you have what's called joint and several liability with that legal entity, right? The buck stops with you. And it's incumbent upon you to exercise your due diligence. Now, if you don't have it up here yourself, then you hire it. You bring it in and you make sure there's infrastructure in place that prevents this kind of stuff from going on. How many people were hurt? How many pension funds were literally destroyed? I mean, we're talking about lives here, life savings. It may be a pittance to these people that are way upstairs there, to the Gary Genslers of the world that are worth over $100 million, by the way. It may be a pittance to him, but for some other folks, hey, that was their mom and dad's life savings. That's all they had, right? And so I think Congress needs to actually step up and do their job and hold an inquiry and get to the bottom of it. And there needs to be accountability. No, it's just me. And that's how I feel about it. I just think it's absolutely insane what we're watching. We're watching a dog and pony show. I mean, like Shane, you were saying earlier when we were off camera and you were talking about how they put, what's her name? The big,
Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart went to jail.
She was a billionaire. Go ahead, Shane. Go ahead.
Yet Friedman's still walking around with a fuzzy Jack's head hairdo and dropping comments like, "Oh, I was pretty sure was pretty sure we were financially okay before swapping those trades and doing those deals. Yeah, I was fairly confident we were liquid.
Mhm.
And I mean, rightly so, Dave. You say Congress have got to step in, but here we go again.
Yeah.
The information coming out, there were just as many on the Republican side taking donations as the Democrats. Well, who's going to step in and say, "Oh, yeah, look, sorry, I made a mistake"? When have we heard a politician say that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Exactly.
but I've got to resign. But it's just
It's
just
poppycock.
yet
It's
again,
absolute poppycock. They don't have any integrity or resolve. They
exactly.
don't.
It's
They don't have
just
any
more
resolve.
testament to the fact that the heightened levels of corruption, and you don't even have to leave the United States to prove that.
No, you don't.
Let's put Ukraine and what happened with their cryptocurrency scheme on the side. Let's not even step outside the boundaries of the US.
Yeah. And how on earth is Ukraine turning around, taking what was given, as foreign aid, right, to assist in the war effort and to compensate people that have been dispossessed of their homes and their possessions and all that, and yet they're taking the money and they're investing it in FTX? I mean, that just is unbelievable. And how is there no accountability for that? Like, who's monitoring the use of the funds? Because when you give foreign aid is designated for a specific purpose. They are designated funds. And it's not so that you can take the money and actually make a profit on it. It's so you utilize it to bring the relief that you actually were requesting it for in the first place. Well, it doesn't sound like that happened, does it?
Yeah, well, it's absolute
I could
garbage.
just get on a soapbox and go wild, but
that's it. But anybody listening to the, our citizen journalists that are on the ground there in the Ukraine, that are actually bringing forward footage of the Russian military organizing aid to the Ukrainian people. Yet then you've got the Ukrainian snipers up on the rooftops taking pot shots at the Russian soldiers, taking them out, so that the Ukrainians who are desperate for the aid that they should be getting in, survival packages, actually scatter back to the winds. It's just, how you
the
even
narrative is
clean
just
up?
There's something off. There's something seriously off.
Yeah.
And you're literally watching. Sometimes you're seeing kind of like displays. I've seen videos where they actually staged an entire advertisement almost and made it look like there was all this stuff and it was just a stage. It was absolutely not true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got the camera close to the ground and you got the fellow with the smoke machine pumping the billows to, make it look like there's a grenade's just gone off, and it's absolute garbage.
And so, you know what? The bottom line is, unfortunately, I think a lot of people in the West and around the globe, let's be honest, have lost absolutely all confidence in any type of, traditional media that you're actually getting a story that has some truth in it. Oh, you might have a line here and there for sure, but you're not getting the absolute facts. And because they've lost that confidence, when you lose that kind of confidence, right? Nobody knows what to believe or who to believe or how to actually because we make decisions as human beings based on the information that's presented to us in front of us. That's how we work, right? That is how we assess the world, by our senses, and how we process information. And with that information, and filter it through, let's be honest, our own biases and convictions. That's how we move forward and make decisions. Well, when all the information out there is getting you to believe a narrative that is completely, absolutely false, how can you have any confidence in making any decision moving forward? Because you're not dealing with hard evidence, real facts. And when you feel that lack of confidence, that germinates a sense of deep level of insecurity. And I'll tell you what, if there's anything going on right now in the United States and most of the world, is a level of uncertainty that is creating a societal anxiety that is truly palpable right now. And I get it. I hear it when I hear questions coming back from, my own channel. I'll give you an example of one that is just unbelievable, really. But so in this crypto space, one of the most secure things that you'll hear is not your keys, not your crypto. This is a big, big mantra that's out there. And this will help maybe segue into talking about exchanges. But one of the things that has come out recently is, and of course, there's the promotion of, if it's not your keys, get it off exchanges, put it on a cold storage wallet. Well, some of the information that is coming out now, this kind of, and I've heard it and people have asked me, so I responded to it in a video, but basically is, they're going to delist XRP and XLM from cold storage wallets. Well, that is absolute baloney, number one. And number two, you don't delist anything. It's just, would they have an application on there that would support it or not? And if they don't, well, there are mechanisms that you're able to use. Your crypto is not on your cold storage device. It's on the blockchain, and you can access it in multiple ways. But hey, I mean, if you want, we can talk a little bit about exchanges and stuff like that. And, it's just too risky. What do you think, Shane?
Absolutely. It's a standard delivery that we give our members as well. Get it off an exchange. Use an exchange for what it's called for. An exchange.
Right.
Fiat in one side, your digital out the other, and that's it. Anybody who leaves any amount on any of the hot exchanges, you're liable to make a donation at some point in time, because if they decide all of a sudden, we're not going to support this token, we're not going to support that coin, we're not going to carry that asset, that's it. It's gone.
Yeah. And you would have avoided the whole FTX thing, or you wouldn't have been a victim of that.
Absolutely.
Before we
110% or 120 billion%, depending on how much, you decided to donate to,
whomever, somebody has it.
SBF's Toyota.
Before we get too far away from FTX, we had a friend call and let us know that, there was a marital disagreement over, she was very smart about investing in ISO coins, but, to the layman, it's all the same thing. So, he might have been angry with her for investing in FTX in his mind. And, this does sort of cast a very big wet blanket over the whole digital asset sphere, especially those that don't know a lot about it. So how will that impact more savvy investors? Will it at all, or?
Well, in this marketplace, you're talking about probably one of the most volatile markets in the world. It trades 24/7, 365 days a year, but has some amazing, because it's so nascent. We're talking about a brand new asset class, and you see so few of those. Look, probably it's been 100+ years since there's been truly a new asset class. And so when you think about it in this terms. Now, with exchanges, I think Shane is right on the money here. You are at risk because you don't know how solvent an exchange is. Remember, an exchange is a centralized unit, right? These exchanges they call them centralized CEXs. CEX is a centralized exchange. Now, when you buy on there and you hold on there, you actually have a representation of a balance that you hold, but it's actually not crypto, right? Because it's just a ledger entry on that exchange. Now, when you go to withdraw it, if you can withdraw it to a cold storage wallet, then it becomes the digital asset, truly. Now, having said that, has any of these tokens, these ISO tokens, so let's look at XRP, XLM, Hedera Hashgraph, Algorand, Quant, and the like. Have they lost any of their utility? They haven't. Has their ecosystems diminished in size? No. In fact, they have expanded, especially take a look at XRP. You've got the Bank of America, and like we said last time, I think the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, those are just two that are sitting there on the sidelines saying, once this case is settled, we're going to be using Ripple's on-demand liquidity platform, and it utilizes XRP. So you're telling me that the infrastructure, they're literally building central bank digital currencies, and this will get into another subject in a second, but you've got them building digital central bank digital currencies for nation states. One of them being the United States, another one being Australia, another one being Great Britain. This company Ripple is building those, and the bridge asset is going to be XRP. So when you think of it in those terms, you can't look at it and like, oh, throw the baby out with the bathwater. So let's take 2008 for example. Should we have just gotten rid of the stock markets altogether because Lehman Brothers went down and we had the whole 2008 fiasco? Right? When the whole system was imploding? No, of course not. Because we know that that's how the world works. That's how value is transferred. That's how liquidity happens in this world. It's because of markets, right? So you got this brand new asset class. And yeah, of course, when anyone loses something, let's be honest, there's pain involved, right? And once bitten, twice shy. But does that mean that the technology of where we're going is somehow slowed down? It hasn't. That engine has really been revving up even all the more. What you're going to see now, though, is a knee-jerk reaction towards regulation. And I have to ask myself, is it truly knee-jerk, or was this whole thing planned out from the first place?
Right.
Because that's exactly what they want. And so that's kind of how you have to look at it. To me, the asset class itself and where this is going in the future has lost absolutely zero amount of its utility. And so I look at that, I am not even the least bit shaken out. It doesn't scare me. And another thing too, when you're dealing with a space like this, take the emotion out of it. Yeah. Just remove that. Look, most people right now are motivated by one level of fear or another. And that's why when they measure a bear market and a bull market, what did they use? They use the fear and greed index. Why? Because people are motivated by one or the other, and neither one of those emotions are healthy. When you're just focused on your greed, you're going to make bad decisions. And I'll tell you another thing: when you're focused on your fear, you're not going to make. You are going to be decimated. You've got to take the emotion out of it, and you have to start thinking in a logistical way, long term, and plus put other things in place of those things. So when we hear about Wall Street and Gordon Gekko comes on, he says, oh, greed, it's good. Look, I'm going to tell you something. There are far more better motivators for accumulating wealth than greed. I can tell you that right now. How about caring for your fellow man? How about having the desire to leave something in posterity to your children and your grandchildren, or to pay for somebody else who could never afford an education? How about paying off somebody else's mortgage? Ever think of that? And then when it comes to fear, you know how you kill fear when it comes to finances? Learn to be a giver. Because you take away that fear of not having enough, because that's what the real down the core is. Will I ever have enough? What if I do this? I could lose it. And then what about me? Well, and it becomes so self-focused. But when you take that shield away and you actually learn, not to think like that, where it's not all about self, then that fear has no power over you. And I'll tell you what, that is the greatest gift you can ever give yourself, and no one can take it from you. That's a fact.
I got a
totally agree, David. Fear. And just quickly, Scott, just on that point, David, I think that's one of the most important aspects to focus on, because once you get rid of that fear, your self-centric is more in tune to be looking at opportunities to give.
Good point.
So true.
If that FOMO, that fear of missing out, is removed, it just takes the blinkers off. Because as you say, it's either have I got enough or am I going to miss out?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you 100%.
And
it changes you. And you know what? It's a fundamental shift in the way you think. Because, right now, most of us they're trying to, I would say it this way, they're trying to, get us to start thinking in realms of fear. Look at the whole C thing. If you didn't get the thing, wow, did they ever scare the dickens out of a lot of people into that? No one using their own common sense about it, and just thinking, okay, 99.9% of the people that get, this, actually survive it. Do I really need to have a, biological shield operating on the inside of me?
With regard to fear, and a lot of people, investors in the space, we fear CBDCs, we fear a centralized model, and so on and so forth. And this FTX debacle may be used to let people know, hey, we need that centralized level of control, or this is going to just be too scary for everyone.
Sure. And they're going, you're right. There, that's absolutely true. And I think that's where you're going to see the bringing in, of a lot of these type of regulations that we need to step in and look after you, because wow, this is just such a dangerous thing, and really, and it's such a disingenuous load of baloney. It has nothing to do with protection, but everything to do with control.
Right.
Right. And
No,
so,
it's-
but unfortunately, we're talking about a herd mentality. Now, where do most people get their apologetic? Apologetics is basically just what I believe and why I believe it. Okay. So where do most people get that? Well, they get it from the Fifth Estate. Well, what's the Fifth Estate? Well, that's all the media that's out there. And now you topple on that social media. And with social media, you get rewarded with what? One of the greatest cotton candies that the human ego desires, affirmation. So if you follow the crowd, we're going to affirm you. We're going to applaud you. We're going to give you 100,000 subscribers. We're going to on and on and on. But you step off those rails and you start to question, oh my goodness, well, it's not affirmation anymore. What is it? The thing that majority of human beings dread the most, rejection. But not just rejection, like here, broad-based public rejection, and it can have a humongous effect. So most people are forming their worldview and their narrative based on the carrot and the stick. And so they're not using critical thinking. We've thrown that out the window. You can't even have healthy debate anymore. Because if you do, you're going to be eviscerated. You can't walk onto where we should have healthy debate. You can't walk onto a university campus and with any kind of certainty feel that you're going to be able to communicate your thoughts, opinions, ideas where they should be debated in an environment that is going to, hey, it's okay if someone wants to poke holes in my ideas and thoughts and opinions. I welcome that. But let's do it where there's debate so that we can get further down the road. But that's not even allowed. So,
I'm just curious, like, what do debate classes even look like anymore?
Yeah. They measure the likes on Facebook.
That's right. It's the professor coming out there and telling you what your position and point of view is. That's the debate.
or
you want to get an A in this class? You're going to take my opinion.
Yeah, and you're going to be respectful to my pronoun as well.
Oh God,
exactly. You know what's crazy?
Brain. You get this constant flow of dopamine with every like and so on.
Insane.
It doesn't even matter what your opinion is after a while. You just want that dopamine. It's
That's
like pecking at the keys of the piano to get the food to drop down the chute, and that's what we've been reduced to.
Wow, that's a great analogy. I love that. You're absolutely right. And that's what it is. You're being emotionally fed. And what's really, really scary about that is few people will even recognize it as that, because then you start peeling back the onion and you ask them, okay, well, why do you believe that? Well, because, and you say, okay, well, let's take that down the road a little more, until it gets to the point where this is what they do. Oh, you're crossing my boundaries. Can't talk to me. Talk to him. Because they get to a point where their argument just doesn't hold any more water. And then they get angry at you and they make it about boundaries. Boundaries? What are you talking about? You just sat there for 45 minutes telling me everything you thought and believed and And here I come to rebut. But my rebut is crossing your boundaries. I don't understand that.
But then you cross that line and become a xenophobic anti-Semite.
Yeah. Or they make you out to be that, which is not at all the truth, right?
No, and it's similar to the conversation I've had with a number of people when it comes up about the digital assets. It's like, well, okay, but you're in that space. What's the difference between crypto and digital? It's all the same. It's all online. So, well, hang on a minute.
It's totally different.
Crypto is similar to a fiat dollar. It's a promissory note. You put your money into the exchange and get a value of X amount in a particular NFT or
Yeah.
a token, a coin, a representation of
Of
a
something.
fluffy little dog,
Yep.
whatever you want to invest in,
Mhm.
and you can't do anything with it.
You can't do anything with it.
Whereas the digital asset market or the digital asset side of things, you get your XRP, you transfer it across to the Stellar network, you can access it through Lobster, Stellar Term, Stellar X, and view it on Stellar Expert. It's a physical account that you have a public address to, a private address to, and it's secured by a passphrase through Lobster. Worst case scenario, that has an issue. I still have my public key, my private key on the Stellar network. I can use one of the other interfaces or exchanges on the Stellar network to access those funds. There's no loss.
Yeah. The thing
unless
is,
unless you delete it from the Stellar network or transfer it out, it's still there.
Yeah.
If Lobster decides to crash, or Stellar Term decides to crash, or Stellar X decides to close up shop and move, I've got another avenue. But if I've invested through a hot exchange that takes my money and gives me a promise, well, we all know
have anything.
Promises, don't we?
You don't hold anything. And the thing there too to remember is this, guys. So when you're talking about any monetary instrument, it has to have three qualities no matter what. Number one, has to be a store of value. It has to have a unit of account, and it has to be a medium of exchange. That any monetary instrument that ever exists, whether it has been a stone, a pebble, a bead, or a piece of a rock that's nice and shiny, gold or silver, whatever, it has to meet these three conditions. So ask yourself this: would that define XRP? Could that define XLM? Sure, it could. Why? Because it has a store of value, it has a unit of account, and it's a medium of exchange. In fact, right now, people are transacting in those ecosystems outside of the fiat system altogether. A lot of people are afraid of central bank digital currencies because the way in which the narrative is coming out about them. So, of course, in totalitarian states, you're flat out seeing them tied to a social credit system. And I'll tell you what, that's the wet dream of all of the European central banks. Certainly wants to see something like that. In fact, they came out with a laundry list, even so much as to say who should be a sanctioned merchant under the European Central Bank's idea of a central bank digital currency. But the thing is, you can opt out of a CBD system by holding on to some of these assets because you can utilize them right now. Now, having said that, there's a lot of misnomers out there with respect to central bank digital currencies. Number one is people are coming out and says, oh, the private ledger. Well, there's not just one private ledger. In fact, with Ripple, what they're constructing, they flat out came out and said in 2021 that they were building private ledgers off of the XRP ledger as a model. Now, they weren't necessarily utilizing XRP as an asset on those central bank digital currency ledgers, right? But those were private ledgers. So the United States would have a private ledger. The British pound would have a private ledger, and they would create and they flat out tell you these are centralized systems, not like the XRP ledger, which, by the way, anybody with a computer can download XRP and operate a node right at home, right? Well, these are going to be centralized private ledgers. And of course, right now, there's a lot of testing going on in these marketplaces. The last time we were on, I think I showed you guys that central bank digital currency tracker. Well, that's what's going on. And so, sure, you're going to see some things happen over here that they're looking at transacting. And I think one guy came out and said, oh, well, I saw XRP on there for $327,000. Well, no, he didn't. What he saw is a glitch, or not necessarily a glitch, a test on a private ledger. And in fact, in his case, it was a Japanese private ledger, right? But there's nobody out there that's getting XRP for $327,000. And over here on the public ledger, it's 40 cents. Now, I'm not saying that XRP will not hit astronomical value someday in the future. right? But what I'm saying is right now, as we speak, that is a misunderstanding and a huge one. And then you've got folks that, like, for instance, what Shane is saying, it's true. On these centralized exchanges, you're not really holding any digital assets because you don't hold the keys themselves. You take it off those exchanges and you can, but where do most people want to take it off? They want to take it off into a cold storage wallet. Now, the three most popular are Ledger, Treasure, and Decent. So you've got this narrative that's just come out in the last few weeks and creating a bunch of fear that at some point they could either confiscate your digital assets or your device and or delist, quote unquote, de-support the native asset, XRP or XLM or whatever. But even if they did that, Shane is exactly right. It does not matter. Why? Because your assets are on the blockchain and you can access those assets directly through the XRP ledger yourself. Now, most people don't understand that because when they're getting into this space, they just have not been educated enough to truly know what it is. They get that there's value there, but they don't understand how the mechanism works, because what we're dealing with here and now is the protocol. You're investing literally in the protocol. Not like when the internet came out, you can invest in a .com address, but you didn't get to invest in hypertext transfer protocol. Big difference. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, and this
I
is
think
a lot
it's
about what your channel is about, right, David? I mean, you help guide people through making some of these decisions. Part of why we have this show is to have people on where, Scott and I may or may not know about certain subjects, but part of our job is to create a place of trust so that we can, people can find us and then we can say, hey, check out Shane, check out the collective, learn about Greg Brown, or Quantum Brownie as he goes by, learn about the Lobster Wallet, learn how you can invest. And with Dave, we've listened to a Digital Perspective, we listened to Digital Asset Investor. Well, we've never talked to them. What's great about this is we're getting to know you, we're getting to know your mind and what you're about, and we can send people over to your channel so that they can learn more about it. Now, I know that there's a video that you're releasing in a few days. Do you care to touch base a little bit about what that topic might be?
Sure. So I recently had some folks reach out to me from Reaper Financial. Now, Reaper Financial, if I could, am I able to just share my screen?
Yeah, I set that up so you can share your screen.
Oh, okay. So let me just go over here and just give you an idea of who Reaper Financial is. So Reaper Financial, actually, these guys were one of 14 people who filed a amicus brief. So here is, and this was back in November, Reaper Financial seeks leave to file an amicus brief. Well, they actually did file it. And I had, these guys reached out to me and I was like really encouraged when they did, because their CEO, this guy right here, Patrick Riley, he actually came on and he did a 45-minute interview and really peeled back the onion in a big way. And not only that, he revealed some really amazing type of lobbying that is going on behind the scenes. You will be blown away when you see this. It's truly something amazing. And he shared that with us. And I'm going to be posting that on Wednesday. And hey, the chief legal counsel for Reaper is Fred Rispoli, which this is lawyer Fred that everyone talks about when they're in the Twitterverse when they're dealing with XRP and the XRP army and all these various things. Well, Fred actually did a ton of work writing up their amicus brief in this case. So this is going to be a really great interview. I'm going to publish it on Wednesday. I'm going to try and actually have it out at 7 p.m. Texas time on Wednesday. And I think it's going to be quite eye-opening. I was like blown away totally. And I've been immersed in this whole case, and some of the stuff that he revealed was really quite amazing. So I thought that was really cool. So so anyway, that's one of the things that we're definitely going to do. And it was really something to get that opportunity to really talk to him. And he went into great detail and was amazingly transparent, which, I found very endearing, because a lot of times in this space, a lot of folks are really holding their cards, right? Because, like they're just not sure what information they can trust out there in the public so that it doesn't get manipulated and construed and all this. Well, he came out so Patrick basically was coming out and he was saying, hey, listen, I really don't care who gets the credit for this at the end of the day. I just want to see it happen because it's going to be amazing for this entire space. And so I have to give him a lot of credit for doing that. So I'm looking forward to Wednesday putting that out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
I appreciate that. Well, part of why I, and bringing some of this stuff up, I'm someone that, and it was through a friend of Scott and I was involved in something called USI Tech, and it was this Bitcoin mining, and there was like, well, we're such good. I'd bet our friendship on it. Well, I don't talk to this friend much anymore, but needless to say, I don't like to see people get taken advantage of. And
Right,
after someone that's been taken advantage of myself, in business, watching my dad get taken advantage of in business. And so, I guess I have an older brother type of mentality. And so that's why I like to have guys on like you, is because, I want people to know as they navigate this world, like what is XRP? Well, they can go to they go to your channel and they can learn about it, how to invest in it. Now, we did talk about that a little bit in the pre-show. If someone wants to buy $50, $100 XRP or something, okay, maybe go to the exchange, buy it there, put it in your cold storage or XUMM, or which is the ledger, the XRP ledger.
Yeah, the Zoom wallet. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there an amount, if someone was really thinking, okay, I want to invest, maybe sell some of my stocks, I'm not telling people to do this, or some of my silver, or whatever, and then I want to invest in getting some XRP, what is like the minimum that you would suggest going through someone else, not just buying on the ledger, and how would someone navigate that, and any insight in that? Because there's the people out there that don't even know where to start.
So when we're dealing with exchanges, of course, the three prominent ones in the United States are Uphold, Coinbase, and Kraken. Now, those are centralized exchanges. And like Shane so aptly put, there's such a great vulnerability there because, number one, you don't get to know what level of solvency any of these exchanges have. I mean, who would have ever thought before this whole FTX debacle happened that FTX was in any danger whatsoever, being that it was such a prominent exchange? Well, you just don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff like that. And so when you're getting new into this space, oftentimes you're just buying it, thinking of it like a traditional thing that somebody is just custodying your stock certificates or whatever, but it's nothing like that. In fact, in the exchange, like Shane has mentioned, it's just a ledger entry until you take it off, right? Now, there is another avenue that a person can use. They don't have to utilize exchanges. They can actually get a broker. Now, what is the difference? Well, when you go to a cryptocurrency exchange or a digital asset exchange, if you want to use that terminology, you are acting as your own broker and you're interacting with that exchange. You put money on there, and regardless how simple or complicated the platform is as you do it, it doesn't matter because by definition, you're acting as your own broker. There's no broker there. And so you're literally dealing with that one exchange. However, when you're dealing with a broker, your broker has access to a multiplicity of exchanges and perhaps even private buyers. Now, in the stock world and the trading world, the markets world, this is called over-the-counter trading. Now, a lot of folks will come out and say, hey, if all these big whales are buying XRP and that, why am I not seeing a big change in the price? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because of how the markets work. These guys are not going on to a centralized exchange and making their purchases. They're going through an over-the-counter broker who spreads out all of that liquidity so it doesn't cost. So if, let's say, a guy wanted to buy $10 million worth of XRP, well, he doesn't want to start buying it when he starts buying it at 40 cents. And by the time he's done, it's $2.50, right? He wants to be able to get as much as he can, right, at the lowest price possible. OTC does that. And that's why you don't see big moves on that, because it is all spread out. And what a broker does is they'll buy it at different intervals. and at multiple exchanges simultaneously. Now, I personally have been using I use a broker myself, and I've been using this broker since probably about 2020, and it's Caleb and Brown out of Australia. And look, they have, I would say, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of various digital assets, and they deal in hundreds of countries around the world. Now, the amazing thing is this: when you go onto these exchanges, a lot of times you're dealing with specific trading pairs. For instance, you can only buy XLM utilizing USDT or something like that. Well, with a broker, you can buy XLM with ADA, with VeChain, and it doesn't matter what the trading pair is, because they can put it together for you. Now, with Caleb and Brown, I know that the fee there's no deposit fee, there's no withdrawal fee, there's no holding fee, there's nothing like that. And you pay, I think, 3.5% or something like that in terms of your fee. And if you deal with hey, this is the biggest one for me. When you're dealing with a centralized exchange like Coinbase, like Kraken or Uphold, and you have a problem, you're writing a support ticket. Excuse me. What happens with that ticket? It gets bounced around the system, and who knows how fast they get it back. You literally feel like you're being held hostage. And at any time that they think there's a problem, they shut you off. They don't allow you to withdraw or whatever. Oh, we're holding everything until we clarify this. And you have to take 15 snapshots of yourself holding a piece of paper and who knows what all to kind of get access. Well, with a broker, you pick up the phone, you literally got someone you're talking to on the line. That is phenomenal. It's certainly worth the 3.5% of the fee. Now, I know with Caleb and Brown, if you're doing their minimum trade, well, I'll give you an example. I have an OTC trading account with Kraken, and I can tell you right now, the minimum trade on that account is $100,000 minimum. Because why? They don't want the majority of people having access to this kind of purchasing, this avenue for purchasing. And let me say this: a lot of people are under the guy thinking that, oh, it's illegal for Americans to hold XRP. That is a bunch of hogwash. It's just that exchanges are too afraid of the SEC to have listed it, and they're more afraid of their liability. But there's nothing preventing a US citizen or resident from holding XRP. But you can go outside of the borders and you can buy it. So with a broker, you can get XRP like with Caleb and Brown. And so, you're not dealing with all of this kind of like stuff in the background. You're dealing face to face up front. And look, it's not too difficult to go out there, and they do. And by the way, with Caleb and Brown, you know what their minimum is when you're dealing with them on the phone? $2,000 minimum. And then if you want to utilize their platform, $500 minimum. That is nothing. Most over-the-counter traders are wanting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in the minimum trade. Why? Because they want to get huge commissions out of it, right? That's how that is the business of over, and so that's how the market works with over-the-counter trading. And that's why I choose that over just dealing with centralized exchanges. And another thing too, let's say there is a massive bull run. How many times have I seen Coinbase go down because they can't take the inflows?
All the time. It's annoying.
All the time. So with these guys, you phone them up and by the way, you can store your assets there if you wish, or they can send it to a cold storage wallet. They use Fireblocks, so they actually put it in cold storage themselves. It's not sitting on the exchange. But another thing that happens is that when you phone them up and say, hey, can you sell at this price? They put it, like I said, they blanket it out there to multiple different exchanges and individuals and over-the-counter traders and all that kind of stuff. And they have massive access to liquidity. When you're trying to do it, oh, I'm going to go into Coinbase. Oh, I better get over there in the Kraken. Oh, I better get back on the KuCoin, wherever you're storing this stuff. And by the time it's all done, the price has already dropped and it's over, man. Whereas with these guys, it's a lot more secure now. On my channel, they've given me a specific link that's in the description of all my videos. Someone clicks that link, they can go on there, register, and they're going to get 3.5%, which is the lowest trading fee through that referral link. So I'll throw that out there. Little shameless plug, I guess.
That's cool. It's good to know that people are in good hands. I mean, I don't know if there's companies that do that in the US. You're using an Australian based company. That's great. But
Yeah. They're centralized. Their central headquarters is in Australia, but I know they have offices all over.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't used one yet myself. I haven't bought in big enough increments to do lump sums at this point yet, but it's really good to know that that exists.
Yeah.
Any questions that Scott might have?
Oh, well, gosh, so many. Wanted to comment.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we definitely want to promote what you're doing, and we'll put your latest interview that we're excited about seeing on our Telegram.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be released. It's Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
That's right.
It's going to be out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Texas time. Yeah, that's right.
It's
the only time that really exists
just to
is
confirm
Texas time.
Just to confirm it's Wednesday.
7
p.m.
December 7th,
Central
7
time,
p.m. Central time.
Texas.
Texas on Digital Outlook on YouTube.
So I got to ask this one question. The question stays the same. The answer changes by the hour, but we've been watching this ridiculous SEC case. Gensler's clearly in hot water with his involvement in FTX. It seems like every time we think, oh, it's going to finally be in January, it's finally going to be whatever the month might be, someone files a continuance and it's granted
for XRP. You're talking about for Ripple?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify.
Well, yeah.
Well, the last filings have just gotten placed. So the response to the summary judgment briefs, that's it. This is it.
So it is it.
So the last filings. Yep. This is it before summary judgment. Now she can, Judge Torres can take, a little bit more time. I think there's people that are saying, hey, you could see something happen in January. You could see, hey, we've just had a whole bunch of, information fly that by December 2nd or December 5th, something was going to happen. I reported that and I got blamed as being a date setter. I said, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting what people are saying, right? But sometimes people don't hear that. They hear you saying what someone else said, and then it's now you said it, you see?
Oh, gosh.
So it's kind of like, hey, I read this article. The article said thus and such. Whoa, anyway. So we could probably see something maybe in January, maybe by March. But I mean, I think a lot of folks out there right now are saying, hey, more than likely, no later than the end of June, we're going to see something in this case, a decision is going to come out. And so, you got all these legal analysts. I am not a lawyer and I am not a legal analyst, but I do quote some of them like Jeremy Hogan, Fred Rispoli, John Deaton, and people like that, in these articles that come out. And so, hey, I'm just like everybody else. I'm following the breadcrumbs and keeping my ear to the ground. But I do think we're getting close. Obviously, every day that goes by is a day closer to settlement at some point.
Yeah, and a victory for Ripple is definitely going to have an impact on price action.
I believe it will.
Right. Do you think that's going to be enormous instantaneously, or do you think that's going to be spread out over a period of time?
Well,
I think just to jump in quickly, I think that the other important thing to keep in mind is that the longer the settlement takes, the bigger Ripple gets internationally.
Yeah.
It's at the point where
great point.
The results of the case are only going to impact America. It's not going to impact the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think David agree on that.
Because right now the rest of the world is already designated.
Yeah, they've built and created the rest of the world already, and unfortunately, sadly, the US has come in last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because of their own internal bureaucracy. Yet again,
what's amazing about that too, Shane, is when you look at the ISO 222 timeline. Isn't it interesting that the United States is the last one to go in? And also on top of that, well, right now they're holding, they have the world reserve currency status in there. And of course, they're the last ones to look at potentially issuing their central bank digital. I mean, I don't know if any kind of strategic thinking is behind it, but I wouldn't doubt it if it was.
Well, you'd load on top of that as well the BRICS TSA as now that is formed. You've got other countries of the world saying, well, we're going to use gold to trade for our oil.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's going to Russia.
Yeah.
It's not going through the fiat,
Yeah.
nor the petrodollar.
Yeah.
The
And look at what
writing is on the wall,
yeah.
and
Look at what Dubai just did.
it's been scribbled by
Yeah.
the rest of the world, not the once powerful nation of
Mhm.
the United States of America, being the corporation. Now, the United States,
Mhm.
moving into next year, I think we have enormous opportunity, but
Mhm.
there's still some, how do we say, cleanup that needs to be finalized. And, you know, the whole FTX, the whole Ginsler thing, all of that
Yeah.
is part and parcel.
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, the digital economy is going to burgeon forward without any of these little individual, not to say they're small or minute, but these smaller skirmishes
Mhm.
will have individually no impact on where the digital economy is going, because
Yeah, it's happening whether you like it or not.
David, now for your merchandise off your wonderful YouTube channel, another plug, if you were to log into a web application called Lumen's Pay as a website,
Mhm.
no data is held there. You put a G address in for the Stellar network that happens to be a separate Lobster account for digital Outlook merchandise,
Mm.
starlobster.co.
Mm.
I can purchase a cup from you that you've got at $32 US.
I don't think they're that much, but
Auto converts the lumen value.
yeah.
I transfer 120 lumen. That
Yeah.
goes straight to your Lobster wallet. You see that figure come up, you post me out the cup.
Yeah.
No bank fees, no charges, nothing other than the XLM transfer fee.
Mhm.
You've got your digital coin on one side, what you've asked for. I've paid for it on this side.
Right.
Transaction complete.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier with respect to
the world
the
turns.
monetary instruments. I mean, there are people transacting with XLM, XRP, and all these other digital assets right now. And you know, I mean, hey, my coffee cups aren't $32, by the way. but
Hey, in Aussie dollars they are, mate.
yeah, maybe.
That's
But
right.
you know, hey, I don't even set the price. That's a spread shop, so you know what they're like, right? So, but
Hey,
needless to say,
you know what we're like by now. We
yeah,
have a dig at each other. You
when
know,
you
I'm in poverty coin. All
yeah,
right,
there you
I'm in
go.
poverty coin at this end.
When we're talking about XRP and you consider that it had been delisted from all of these exchanges and basically shut out from the world's largest economy, you're talking about a spring that has been so compressed, just right down like that. And if they win, by the way, a win for XRP, a win for Ripple is a win for all of crypto. I think it will be the catalyst that will literally start the next major bull run in this space. It will literally go nuts. Now, that's my personal opinion, because you're watching an asset that has been just held down. I want you to think about this. In 2017, all XRP was doing was just tinking along. And then one day, literally, if you look at the charts, one day, bang, like bang, it just shot off and went from 20 cents after it tinkered along all like this to $3.84. Now, if you had bought it way down here in 2017, you were getting it at a hair over half a cent. $6,000 1 year later was worth $3.84 million. And that is an absolutely unbelievable move. Now, will we see a fractal like that? Well, no one has a crystal ball, you know, but I can tell you this, if you're shut out of the world's greatest economy, and in the last bull run, remember this, after the SEC lawsuit hit, XRP dropped to 17 cents. That was a big drop at the time. I was there, little, like I said, I bought a whole bag of it the day before it actually happened. So I just ended up buying more. Now, where did it go to? Went to $1.97. Do you realize that's 1,100%?
Yeah.
During that time, tell me what equity did that. What stock did a 1,000% move in a period of about 6 months? It would have been one of the best investments you could have ever made, even with the SEC lawsuit on there. Now, that's hindsight, and we can all look back and we can give commentary on hindsight, but I'm not giving financial advice having some foresight. Now, I take 4 things into consideration when I take a look at any digital asset. First thing I look at is real world utility. Does XRP have it? You better believe it. What about a management team? Yeah, I take a look at the management team. And on that management team, you have got some phenomenal players. You don't take people like the likes of Rosie Rios, a former Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, and decides instead of going to the book circuit and the speech circuit where she could have made millions of dollars, or an Ivy League school as a professor, no, she decides, hey, I'm moving over here to Ripple. I'm going to work for this company that's going to change the financial world. Then you look at strategic partnerships. Like I said, you got nation states utilizing their technology to build the infrastructure for their monetary systems. Now you look at technical analysis, which is the price action that I just quoted. You put all that together, for me, I've done my due diligence, my personal research and all of this. And so I have 100% confidence. Now, I can't give you my confidence. Why? Because it's like trying to take your brain and put it into someone else. You do the research for yourself. And I'll tell you what, the answers that you're going to be the most convinced by are the ones you find for yourself. Zero doubt. Absolutely no doubt about that. And that's why I feel so confident. No one's going to talk me in or talk me out of it. And if I could talk you into it, someone else could talk you out of it. Right? You need to be convinced on your own accord. And for me, when I see this compressed spring, and I watched XRP, by the way, do the move that I just quoted, because I've been in this space long before the lawsuit was ever dropped, and I didn't even sell one XRP, even when it did go all the way up to $1.97, because I know what it is and I know what I hold, and that's my personal view. And only just accumulated, and even now still, adding to my position with XRP. And that's not financial advice. That's just me feeling that level of confidence in what I see here, right? And so if you're going to say, hey, look, is there potential? Well, of course there's potential. How great it is? I think, to me, it's going to be one of the greatest assets that mankind has ever created. Now, that is my personal opinion. But that's what I really believe. And I think when Ripple wins this case, it is not going to be just a win for Ripple and XRP. It's going to be a win for this entire digital asset space. Why? Because now we have a framework, whether the SEC likes it or not. They come in and we'll talk, and you get nothing out of them. They don't want to take a stand on anything. Well, the court's going to give us a stand, aren't they? They're going to make a decision. They're going to develop a framework, and it's going to be out there. And now we have something. So that's how I feel about it.
Regulatory clarity overnight.
Well, somewhat. Remember, there's 3 branches of government, right?
Yeah.
You've got Congress, you got the executive branch, and you have the judicial branch, right?
Yep.
So what's probably going to happen is a decision is going to get made at the judicial level, and that's going to be the understanding until Congress gets out there and writes some laws, or the executive branch comes out and does some executive orders. That's probably what's going to happen.
Quick question. We've been wondering for a while, maybe for the audience, what is Flare? When is the Flare drop going to happen, if anybody knows? And what will it represent? Where's it going?
Flare, interestingly enough, so Flare is a decentralized finance type of network system. And so when I say decentralized finance network system, and of course, they issue SF assets. Now, it's interesting to me that on the buildup, get this, and just think of this. Before XRP, this SEC lawsuit dropped in December, there were a ton of people buying all kinds of XRP. Why? Because Flare had announced that there was going to be an airdrop, and they were going to take a snapshot on December 12th of 2020. Well, the SEC is there to protect the average investor, right? So let me ask you this. Why were there no shots across the bow? Why didn't they come out and say, hey, we're not so sure about XRP, when they knew people were buying it up like crazy so they could participate in this, snapshot that was about to take place? But they waited until people bought it up like crazy so they'd be participants in the snapshot, Flare snapshot, which was a 1-to-1. Right? At that time, if you had one XRP, you got one Flare. After the snapshot's done and all the buying had happened, right? What did they do? Bang. Then they dropped the lawsuit. Well, that's just a little too convenient, if you ask me.
Exactly.
And so then every time there's been a hint of a settlement, you hear Hugo Filion coming out, oh, we're ready to distribute the Flare tokens. So the next distribution date has been set for January 9th of 2023. So a lot of people are speculating, of course, that we'll have a settlement in this case by that time. Let's pray that that's true. But that's what's coming out. And Flare is, a decentralized network where you're able to actually stake your assets and you can earn, yield and reward, and you can wrap right now, like with Songbird, you can wrap your Songbird, you can wrap your XRP. It's a little too much for just what we're talking about right now, but that's basically in essence what it is.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, I was going to say that whole wrapped asset and staking and liquidity pools, there's more than enough information on YouTube from a lot of credible guys that
way smarter
specialized. Yeah, exactly. Specialized in putting that info together.
Yeah.
But for not to downplay the individual, but for the average person who wants to get in, it's like trying to explain the difference between conventional computing now and quantum computing.
Yeah.
There needs to be
there's a big learning curve for sure.
Massive. But at the end of the day, the difference between conventional computing now and quantum computing is conventional computing is switches and relays that compute on a 1 or a 0, whereas quantum is, instead of it being a 1 and a 0, it's a 1 and or a 0. And
or simultaneously both.
Simultaneously in a globe in 3D. Like one of the greatest explanations I heard of it is, think of conventional computing as two sides of a coin. All right, you've got a head or you've got a tail. Or you put that coin on its edge and flick it, it spins, you've got the head, the tail, the head, the tail, the head, the tail, the head, the tail, and you've got the outside circumference of the coin.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the power of the two computers.
Yeah.
Conventional, head or a tail. Quantum computing, head, tail, rim, circular.
Yeah.
It can just compute and perform so many more functions in exponentially a greater rate and a huger capacity. That is something that we will need for the quantum financial system and the digital space moving forward, so that we can step away from making a transaction and having to wait for banks to be processed in different currencies, cross-border, the whole thing. That is where the CBDCs come into it at that level.
Yeah, it really is a big, and it is going to be quite amazing. And there will, I suspect there's going to be a ton of things invented that haven't even been invented yet that are going to make it feel seamless for a lot of folks down the road. But that's the beauty of getting in now. We're in our absolute infancy practically. And so you're almost like, you're not necessarily a trailblazer, but you're certainly a pioneer.
Right. Correct. And that might be a lead into number 3, guys.
Number 3.
Oh, you mean you need a trailblazer, pioneer, or then is that what you're going with them?
Our next catch up and discussion.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, right, exactly.
That number 3. That number 3. Segue.
And
segue sent. Segue missed.
I missed it.
Yes. Perfectly timed as well, because I think we're right at about an hour.
Yeah, we're right about an hour, and we want to wrap it up. And I know David has to get back to the lovely one. In closing, David, where can people find you? Thank you so much, and just
no worries. So I'm at Digital Outlook. At basically, I don't have a Twitter, by the way. I don't do Instagram. I don't do any of that stuff. I'll never WhatsApp anybody, by the way.
That's cool.
And any of that kind of stuff. I just have the YouTube channel. My motivation for doing the whole thing from the get-go was to just give people a little insight into any information that I had, and enough information for them to make up their own mind. Look, I'm not trying to convince anybody, and try to make a decision for another person. Look, I even do one-on-one coaching. And what I tell folks right off the bat, I says, hey, look, I can't tell you what to do. But what I can tell you is how to do it necessarily, you know? And so a lot of it has to do with setting goals and knowing what it looks like to execute that and to stick with it. You know, that is one of the biggest things that we have gotten so far away from is perseverance. Perseverance is literally, you know, we just don't have that stick-to-itiveness. And it's amazing how lucky those that persevere truly are. You know, it just has something to do with the fabric of who you are. It's called delayed gratification. We've walked away from that. Look, I think I shared one time when I learned how to play the guitar, my fingers ached like crazy and they cracked and they bled and da 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 da. But I kept with it. One day I picked up this guitar and all of a sudden my fingers had muscle memory and they went to where they were. And then I learned how to strum. Well, now what used to be painful is almost effortless. And it works that way when we build character into our lives. Look, these are gifts you give yourself, and no man can take them from you. Nobody. You know, the quality of your character is not defined by what other people think of you or whether or not they affirm what you believe. You decide who you're going to be in this world. And thank God, you know, there's Martin Luther King. He came out there and he literally said, look, people are going to be judged by the content of their character and not some word. In his case, he said the color of their skin. But the reality is not just, look, people right now, it's crazy how many people will judge books by their covers. I get it all the time. I put out a catchy title and a nice little thumbnail and I get judged on the cover. They didn't even read or listen to the video. Didn't even listen to it. You know, I put out one there and it was a question. And why was it marked as a question, you know? And it was basically saying the question was, are cold storage wallets delisting XRP? Question mark. Oh, that's clickbait, blah, 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 blah. Well, do they know how many questions I got like that in the comments? And that in that video, I was answering that question and I was saying, this is something you don't need to worry about because of thus, and thus. Well, a lot of people watched it, found it great, but there are people in there that are just judging it by its cover and not really taking even the time to hear the argument. And I think that's a sad, sad place that we've reached here in society as a whole.
Agreed.
And look, for me, you know, there is a level of responsibility for our fellow man, you know, we're responsible for one another. You know, they say that there is this whole thing about being 5 people removed from anybody. So put it this way. I've met the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, I don't know him personally, but I've actually talked with the guy face to face, had my hand right on his shoulder and back and him on mine. Look, the picture, you know, like a whole thing like that. Now, have you guys, you know, you guys have met me. Well, that's only one more person removed, right? And on and on. It's like we are a very small community, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people you guys know that knows this person knows that person who knows Trump or something like that.
Well,
right?
our buddy Derek Johnson just met Trump's yesterday.
So there you go. Same. It's the reverse is the same. So how close is that network?
Yeah.
And information, true, real information, doesn't flow necessarily through mediums. It flows through people.
Exactly.
And I think we have to get back to that. I think we really need to get back to people because we're a lot closer connected than what we really think we are.
Yes.
And you can get on there and feel like you have this powerful cloak of anonymity. And, you know, you use it in, can be used in a very visceral way. But the reality is, it's kind of like, you know, when I forget, it was Jeff Goldblum, you know, when he's on Jurassic Park and he had that butterfly theory, you know. Basically, it's kind of like that. Those ripples, pardon the pun, do get out there. They have the fact. You know, that's why you have sayings like what comes around goes around, you know, you reap what you sow, da, 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 all that kind of stuff. And for me, I look at this life and I realize, hey, look, this is my journey. It is certainly not my destination. Now I'm mapping out a life, just like everybody maps out a life, whether it's through our relationships, our children, our investments, or whatever. And it's all about the experience as we pass through. But someday it's going to be my last day. well, what kind of life am I leaving back here that other people are going to read? That's why it's his story, history, right? It's his story. What story am I leaving for other people to read? And another thing too, sometimes when people, now I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. Well, I may be the only Jesus that someone ever sees. And they're watching me. And they may never say one word to tell me that they're watching me. So am I doing it? Am I living this life, with no conscientious viewpoint of just how it might affect other people? Look, that's where I come back full circle, that we're responsible for our fellow man. That's just how I take it. And so, if I sow a little seed here, there's a saying, it says one plants, another waters, but the Lord grants the increase. I don't know what I'm adding to something, or, hey, maybe I'm taking some pain away. It's not always what I add. Maybe it's just the help of comforting somebody else to take something away, right? So anyway, for me, that's what's most valuable, and I've experienced some great blessing in my life, but I want to pay that forward. And that's what means the most to me. So, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share all that.
Said, man, it's you're such a great fit to our show. And Shane, anything you want to, I don't know if you want to follow that.
Sorry.
Not much I can add to that, other than to echo that sentiment. And, that's one of the reasons why I stay involved in it as well. Because, I mean, to be honest, what I've been able to secure on the digital asset side, just waiting for that realization that when it all comes to fruition, that it's going to be a, pay off what I've immediately got to pay off. And then it's into, how can I turn this around instead of that squirrel away all the nuts so that I've got every single one of them. It's like, well, I've now got, I've got at least half a dozen humanitarian projects. And one of them is to reach out and connect with the guys that have been doing the heavy lifting, our veterans, the ones that have been doing all the hard yards behind the scenes that
I like that a lot.
Will carry, whether those people are connected enough to understand what's been going on under the surface, so to speak, and clearing out. They are going to need a heap of support. The young ones are going to need a heap of support. Some of them that haven't seen daylight in their entire existence.
That's another subject. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's one great video that I shared the other day of it was obviously a military group in a C-130 or a large aircraft, and there's just one soldier in greens amid or fatigues in the mid of a sea of other soldiers, and he's just cradling and feeding a young child, and he's just continually, and that may be the first compassionate contact that little one has ever felt, has ever seen. And it's just it's just so moving, the stuff those guys have seen, and the way things have gone, it's all wrapping up in the same process that this great awakening is opening eyes on a lot of fronts, the least of which is the digital asset side. But flipping that around and being able to set up care centers for those guys, for the little ones, for our homeless, that you look at the amount that, no disrespect, that Congress or government here in Australia, there's no other way to say it, they'll piss the figure up against the wall for, marketing costs for, the last election, when that there's no point in them spending the money, because you already know who's getting in.
Yeah,
left wing, right wing, same bird, but to be able to take figures like that and spin those around into a worthwhile project, and a very needy project, that issues that we shouldn't be dealing with as a free and proper society.
Yeah.
So that's what it needs to get back to. You know, not a handout per se, but a hand up
Yes.
Yeah.
in society. And that's where it's got to get to, so that we're lifting everybody up to the same level playing field. And that's a term that's been thrown out there by none other than the man himself. And that's the journey that we're all on, whether it's, you know, whether it's music or digital assets or, you know, community involvement. It's just everybody up to the same level so that we can move forward as a society. You know?
Yeah, never underestimate the power of purpose. Just don't do
That's
it. Have a purpose and live life on purpose, but make sure your purpose isn't, you know, something that is just a self-gratifying thing, because like I say, you know, this is our journey. And at some point in
service
time,
to others as opposed to service to self.
Exactly. It's
You
going
know?
to end sometime. And we can enjoy the ride and to do it together. But, you know, have a purpose.
That's it. Band of brothers. That's what I like. Band of brothers, you know.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for the closing statements. And
All right, thank you.
we'll be back. We'll see when, hopefully in the next few weeks, for part 3.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see how it all goes. It's just getting busier and busier as Christmas is getting closer and closer. So
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope you guys have a happy holiday.
yeah. Maybe we'll hold it off for January and we'll see what's in. But anyway, all right, gentlemen. Good night. Thank you very much.
Right.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you guys. Bless
Thanks
you.
for having us.
You guys are
All
great.
right.
Cheers.
Yeah.